Batman, Arkham City Part 1. Welcome to Hell. Gotham City, New Jersey, January 18th, 2021. It was a Monday, and the new year was off to a rough start. 2020 was a very turbulent year, not only for the world, but for Gotham City. In November, close to Thanksgiving, Arkham City opened up, the new super prison touted by Mayor Quincy Sharp. The prison was once Tri-Corner Island, Gotham City's fourth and smallest of the islands. Now it was a open-air supermax prison where every criminal from Blackgate has been shipped there. Every criminal who's been arrested has been shipped there, and all the inmates from Arkham Asylum has also been shipped there. The plan was to incarcerate all of them in there and hopefully forget about them. But the new super prison was without its critics. Many people thought it was a bad idea, including the ones who really believe in capital and corporal punishment. But they would be silenced too. Many who complained about the prison have disappeared, and it drew a lot of attention, including from Bruce Wayne himself. He was one of the high-profile people in Gotham City and the state to openly oppose Arkham City. Even though it could have been easy for Hugo Strange and the mayor to have him arrested, but he was too much of a well-known figure for that. But soon, everything would play into their hands. Meanwhile, in the super prison itself, the sun had just set, and it began to snow. And inside the old Gotham City Municipal Courthouse, which was being used by Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, for his hideout, for him and his men, a couple of his men were wearing elaborate costumes. They were gray and black, split down the middle, with one side being gray, the other side being black, to represent Two-Face's split face, and also matching masks. Two of those men were standing by a big painting of Cain and Abel, and one of the goons says to the other goon, "Well, I'm glad I'm in here doing guard duty tonight to this safe behind the painting. I'm safe, I'm warm, I wouldn't want it any other way." The other goon says back, "You're right, we are safe in here. Things are getting too crazy out there, especially between Joker and the Penguin." The other goon says, "It's true, man. Those two are really at each other's throats, and every day more and more guys on their sides are dying in the battles out in the streets." After they got done talking, both men were frightened by a shadow that appeared over the painting. It looked like a shadow of a bat, but they were wrong. As they turned to look, it was Catwoman coming up to them, and she says, "Sorry boys, I need access to that safe." The two men quickly jump in action and say, "Oh no, Catwoman, we have orders from the boss. We're to make sure everything in the safe is protected." Then Catwoman says, "Alright boys, you forced my hand." Then the men said, "Oh please, you Catwoman, we could take you down easy. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty." Now Catwoman was surrounded by four men. She didn't have their strength, but she had something they lacked: agility and speed, and she used it to her advantage as she clobbered all four men. After she was done, she goes up to the painting and takes down the painting, revealing the small safe behind it. Then she uses her safe cracking ability to crack the safe open. Soon inside was an extra gun, an extra clip, a USB stick, and an SD card. She grabs the SD card and she pulls out from her pocket a small PDA. Even though PDAs were rather rare today, they were still being manufactured, including one that she had that was made by Wayne Enterprises. It was more modern and could do a lot of things, like almost a mini computer. She takes the SD card and slides it into the reader underneath her little PDA, and it began to download what looked like a map of some sort of structure. After she was done, then she takes the USB stick and slides it into the reader, and it began to download even more data of Joker and Penguin's territories and other gang territories and what was going on inside the prison. Once she was done, she was ready to go, but suddenly someone pointed a gun to her head and cocked it. And a familiar voice says, "I got you now, pussycat." It was Two-Face. Catwoman was now caught. Meanwhile, later on, it was 7 o'clock at night at the foot of Wonder Tower, which was now the entryway to Arkham City. And over by the entryway was Bruce Wayne. He had set up a press conference. He wanted to get the point across that Arkham City was a bad idea, a disaster waiting to happen. Everybody was there, the media, the police to try to ensure peace, and of course the Tiger Guards, who were strangely not doing nothing. And also, two familiar figures were there, Vicky Vale and Jack Ryder. Both of them were covering the event. Vicky Vale was saying in front of the camera, "We're here live now for the press conference of Bruce Wayne right at the entryway of Arkham City." And then as Bruce Wayne was coming up, she runs up to Bruce and puts a mic in his face. She says, "Mr. Wayne, what is the point of this press conference tonight?" she asked. Bruce says, "Well, you'll find out in a minute, Miss Vale," he says. And then he gets up to the podium, and everyone started taking photographs, the cameras were rolling, and he begins to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, here behind me is the entryway to a disaster waiting to happen. In here behind me," he goes on to say, "are criminals of every sort, and also the mentally ill who shouldn't be in there. They need treatment, not jail," he says. Then, all of a sudden, the press conference was interrupted as tear gas canisters were shot towards him. A giant cloud of tear gas envelops Bruce Wayne and all the crowds in the press conference. The Tiger Guards quickly move in and start arresting people, and Bruce Wayne, he was knocked out cold by one Tiger Guard's rifle butt. When he regained consciousness, he was now in the presence of Hugo Strange, who was administering electric shock to him. And he says to Bruce Wayne, "My, Mr. Wayne, you saved me the trouble tonight of getting you." And Bruce Wayne, still in pain, says, "Oh no, shut this place down." And Hugo Strange says to him, "Oh no, Mr. Wayne. Quite the contrary. After tonight, when Protocol 10 is executed, I will be the hero," he says to Bruce Wayne. Then Hugo Strange leaves the room and the lights turn on, revealing it was a processing room, and Wayne was looking at a giant mirror, and he could see that he was sitting in a chair with his hands cuffed behind him. So he begins to move and sway until he falls over. As he does, a Tiger Guard comes rushing into the room and he says, "What the hell are you doing, Wayne? Get up!" Well, Bruce Wayne quickly frees himself from the handcuffs and takes on the guard. He beats up the guard, and then he takes the guard's radio, smashes it on the ground, and picks up the SIM card and slips it into the sleeve of his business suit. Soon, several more Tiger Guards come running into the room, armed with stun sticks, and they quickly shock Wayne into submission. Afterwards, they dragged Wayne outside to the processing area. It was huge, lit by stadium lights. There were every kind of prisoner there. The ones from Blackgates that were still being transferred over there, and the innocent bystanders, reporters, who were taken prisoner when they raided the press conference. Hugo Strange was there in the processing yard, and he says, "Gentlemen, I don't think Mr. Wayne will be any problem to us tonight." Then Hugo Strange turns over to one of the guards there, and he says, "Sergeant Shineling, please finish the processing of Mr. Wayne." Shineling responds back, "Yes, sir, Dr. Strange." Then he raises his tablet and begins reading the list, and he says, "Wayne Bruce, age 39, date of birth 1/13/82. Your charge for obstructing justice and interfering with the process of Arkham City. The sentence? Permanent incarceration in Arkham City. And then he says to the rest of the guards, throw Wayne in line A. As Bruce Wayne slowly made his way to the line, he sees that the guards were roughing up a very resistant Black Mask as they were shocking him with stun sticks. Then Wayne eventually made his way to line A on the left. There, in front of him was the gate that led directly into hell, aka Arkham City. In front of him were several other people, namely the other reporters who were arrested, like Jack Ryder, Mike Tobel, and Larson Holmes. Jack Ryder sees that Bruce Wayne was behind him, and he says, I can't believe this, Wayne. Here I am covering your crummy press conference, and I end up getting arrested with the others here. Bruce says to Jack Ryder, listen to me, and the rest of you ahead of me, listen, we need to stick together. It's the only way we're going to survive, says Wayne. And Jack Ryder says to Bruce Wayne, like, I'm going to listen to a guy who's never been in the fight before. The other reporters that were there agreed with Jack Ryder. Soon, they were put into a small room, and soon a massive door in front of them began to open slowly. As the door opened to reveal the inside entrance of Arkham City, air horn sirens were heard all over the place, welcoming the unfortunate new arrivals. And surrounding them were chain link fences, and behind those chain link fences were every vicious criminal waiting to see the new arrivals, taunting them, screaming. One of the reporters that was ahead of Jack Ryder began to break down emotionally as his voice crackled over the roaring of the sirens and the criminals, saying to the other men behind him, oh God, I don't want to be here. Oh my God, I'm so scared. Bruce screams at the group, come on guys, get a hold of yourself. We have to stick together. Soon, the criminals began climbing and jumping over the chain link fence to attack the new arrivals. And Bruce could see ahead a very familiar individual at the main gate waiting for them. It was none other than Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin. The two have a bitter rivalry. They pretty much hate each other. And, of course, Batman and Penguin hate each other also. As Bruce was fending off the criminals that were attacking him and trying to help out the other reporters who were being attacked, Penguin screams at Bruce Wayne, well, look who we have here. If it isn't my old idiotic friend Bruce Wayne. Well, welcome to Arkham City. I'm the welcoming committee, he says to Bruce Wayne, shouting. Well, Bruce Wayne tried his best to fend off the criminals, but it was too much, and one eventually hits him over the head with a lead pipe, and he begins to lose consciousness. Moments later, Bruce Wayne regains his consciousness somewhere in some back alley in the super prison, and Penguin was hovering over him, saying, wakey, wakey, rich boy. I hope you had a nice nap. Come on, get up! Or do you need me to call your butler? Said the Penguin angrily. Bruce Wayne, rubbing the back of his head where he was hit, says to Penguin, oh, shut up, you short little fat bastard. Then the Penguin said, what? Oh, that's it. Then the Penguin reaches into the interior pocket of his coat and pulls out a brass knuckle. He slides the brass knuckle onto the fingers of his right hand and balls up his fist and begins punching Bruce Wayne. But Bruce Wayne regains his composure quick enough and quickly grabs the second punch that was coming towards him and breaks Penguin's hands. Penguin lets out a loud, shrill scream, saying, God damn it, he broke my hand! Get him! Get him! The men that were with Penguin, who all were wearing their own brand of military gear in the black and white motif as the Penguins quickly go after Bruce Wayne. But Bruce Wayne makes short work of them. Then he goes back toward the Penguin, who was cowering in fear against the fence, and he says, Don't hurt me! Don't hurt me! Come on! Bruce, we've known each other for a long time. I was just joking, man. But Bruce just stared at him briefly, silently, with anger, and punched him, knocking him out cold. Then Bruce Wayne reaches into his business suit and pulls out an earpiece that was hidden inside the suit. And he puts on the earpiece and he looks at his smartwatch. His smartwatch had a few special modifications and he activates it. Bruce Wayne could hear through the earpiece some static and a voice that was just starting to come through. It was the voice of Alfred, and he says, "Oh my, Master Bruce, this was your plan tonight to get captured?" Then Bruce Wayne says, "Yes, it was." And he asks Alfred, "Are you able to get a location fix on me?" Alfred says, "Just barely. There is an unusual amount of interference, but the location fix places you right behind the old Monarch playing card factory." Bruce says, "Excellent. Then drop the package on top of the roof of the old factory." Alfred says, "Yes, sir." And Bruce Wayne begins to climb up the fire escape and jumps over to the old factory, and he begins to scale up to the roof of the old factory. As he was getting close to the roof, he could hear the sound of the Batjet coming in fast. He looks up and he sees the Batjet make a quick nosedive and then pull right up, releasing its cylindrical package onto the roof. Bruce says, "Thank you, the care package just arrived." He finally gets onto the roof of the old Monarch playing card factory. He goes over to the giant metallic cylinder, and a panel opens up to reveal a handprint scanner. Bruce Wayne places his hand on the handprint scanner, and it begins to scan his hand. Then the cylinder opens up, revealing the bat suit inside. Then Bruce Wayne takes the bat suit and begins to change into Batman as he starts taking off his business suit, revealing that he already had the first piece of the bat suit on underneath his business suit. The strength amplifying undergarment, which was made of polyethylene armor, which gave him extra protection. Then he proceeded to put on the Technora outer layer of the batsuit, and the cape, followed by the cowl, the boots, the gauntlets, the gloves, and the utility belt. And then Batman says over the radio to Alfred,
"Batcave, come in. I'm suited up and ready to go. Can you hear me?"
Alfred says, "Batcave here. I read you loud and clear. What's your next step?" Batman says to Alfred,
"I gotta find out what Hugo Strange is up to. I wonder what Protocol 10 is. I can't leave until I find out. I was able to take a SIM card for one of the Tiger Guard's radios. I'm going to use my cryptographic sequencer to hack into the Tiger Communications network."
Alfred says to Batman, "Roger," and then he says, "Oh, one more thing, sir, before I forget. I packed the mobile suit vault with some extra supplies if you need anything, sir." Batman thanks him and then proceeds to pull out his cryptographic sequencer. He grabs the SD card that he took from the Tiger radio and puts it into the reader. The cryptographic sequencer hacks it, and then he looks for the frequency until he finds it. He was able to hear the entire Tiger radio communication, and he was hearing that Catwoman was captured by Two-Face and going through a mock trial with it about to end in execution. The pilot on the helicopter that was flying overhead the old municipal courthouse was asking,
"Wonder Tower, what do we do?"
Hugo Strange says over the radio, "Nothing. Let Mr. Dent have his fun with Catwoman." Then the helicopter pilot acknowledges it and just hovers above the courthouse, shining the floodlights on all of Two-Face's men that were gathered out in the front steps of the old courthouse. Batman knew he had to act quick, so he ran and leapt from rooftop to rooftop until he got to one roof that was near the courthouse. And Batman pauses. He surveys the front steps of the old courthouse. He sees 10 men there, all just standing there, keeping an eye out to make sure no one gets in and out of the courthouse. And Batman sees his break. He sees that 3 men were standing close enough to each other, and he figured if he could just glide kick the first man in front, he could take out the other 2 behind him. So Batman leaps from the roof across the street from the courthouse, and he glide kicks right into the first man that was in front, and just like he planned it, he was able to take out the other 2 guys. 3 down, 7 left. And Batman takes on the remaining men. Of course, the helicopter that was hovering above the courthouse picked up the brawl, and the pilot says on the radio,
Come in, Wonder Tower. Come in, Wonder Tower. This is Sky Tiger 6. We have a visual confirmation on the Batman. He's engaging Two-Face's men in front of the old Gotham City Municipal Courthouse, and he is winning.
Then Hugo Strange comes over the radio and tells Sky Tiger 6 to not engage the Batman, leave him be. Well, after Batman made short work of Two-Face's goons at the steps of the municipal courthouse, suddenly Batman hears a loud whistle, followed by an inmate saying, "Look, it's the Batman, let's get him." Batman sees a group of Blackgate inmates coming towards him. Then he runs inside to the courthouse and locks the door behind him. Soon, Batman was inside the old Gotham City Municipal Courthouse, and he sees that Two-Face did his own brand of redecorating. One side was nice and clean, and the other side was completely ruined to symbolize Two-Face's split face and split personality. And he could hear Two-Face screaming, giving orders for the men in the courtroom to calm down. Batman made his way to the courtroom. He decides to take him by surprise from above. As he climbs to the higher part of the courtroom, he sees there was a sniper, and Batman takes out the sniper. Now he was above, looking at the mock trial that was about to begin. The old Gotham City Municipal Courthouse was a very small courthouse. It was only one courtroom, and inside the courtroom was 30 men, mostly Blackgate inmates, Two-Face's own men, and a small group of Arkham inmates. And in the courtroom was a giant tank of acid, and above the acid something was hanging, completely wrapped in a burgundy velvet cloak. And Two-Face begins the trial as he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring out the accused." Then Two-Face pulls the cloak away. The cloak falls into the acid and gets eaten up, and it was Catwoman, tied and hanging upside down. And Two-Face says aloud in his normal voice, "Gentlemen, this woman was caught stealing from us. Now we shall render our verdict." Then Two-Face flips his coin. His two-headed lucky coin lands in the palm of his hands, and he puts the coin on the scarred hand, and it was the scarred side up. And Two-Face says in his monstrous voice, "Tails, kitty cat, you lose." Unbeknownst to Two-Face, even though Catwoman's hands were tied behind her back, she still had razor claws, and she cut herself free. And then she says to Two-Face, "Wrong, Two-Face, you're the one that's guilty." And then she quickly surprises Two-Face and scratches his face. Two-Face lets out a "Ugh!" and Catwoman quickly cuts herself free. That was Batman's cue to jump into action, and Batman glides in and starts beating up some of Two-Face's men. The rest of the men in the courtroom flee, leaving only a handful left behind, and soon Batman and Catwoman engage the rest of them, making short work of them. But Batman was caught off guard when Two-Face shot him. Two-Face shot Batman in the chest, but luckily the armor was the heaviest in Batman's chest, but it still knocked him back. Then Two-Face points the gun over to Catwoman, and he says to her, well, kitty cat, looks like your little boyfriend is out for good. Now, payback, it's going to be a real bitch for you. And Catwoman says to Two-Face, you're right, Harvey, I am a real bitch. And she surprised Harvey by doing a backflip kick, which kicked the gun out of his hand and also kicked him in the jaw. Two-Face quickly regained his composure and quickly went for his gun on the ground. He grabbed his gun and was ready to shoot Catwoman, but at that moment, Batman uses his grapple gun and shoots it at Two-Face. The grapple rope quickly wraps around Two-Face's left leg, and Batman pulls him right towards him. He hangs him upside down over the vat of acid and quickly ties Two-Face's hands together with the rope. Afterwards, Batman jumps down from the platform and walks over to Catwoman, and he asks her,
Are you okay?
Catwoman says, yes, I am okay. Then she asks Batman, what are you doing here in Arkham City? Then Batman says,
I'm investigating what Hugo Strange is up to, and what is Protocol 10. Do you know anything?
Catwoman says to Batman, no, I don't. And I don't like this either. Hugo Strange has been missing for nearly 20 years. Then all of a sudden, a year and a half ago, he turns up and helps the mayor with the creation of Arkham City. As Catwoman was explaining to Batman everything she knew, unbeknownst to both of them, outside the courthouse, Catwoman was in the crosshairs of a sniper. And as the sniper was adjusting his aim on Catwoman, a familiar voice is heard saying,
Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, watch me kill your favorite cat.
Meanwhile, back inside the old municipal courthouse, as Catwoman was explaining everything to Batman, Batman saw on her a green targeting laser in the shape of a sinister smiley face. It was moving towards her head. Batman quickly pushed Catwoman out of the way against the wall, and the rifle went off. Catwoman says, ooh, thinking that Batman was trying to get frisky with her, but then she saw the bullet hit the floor where she was standing at, and she says, oh my. And Batman says to her,
I want you to get to safety and stay out of harm's way tonight. I have a feeling that something big and nasty's going down.
Catwoman says to Batman, you just don't worry about me tonight, tall, dark, and brooding, but if you're going to do something big, just do it after I do what I have to do tonight. She gives Batman a kiss and runs off. Then Batman uses his detective mode to scan the impact site of the bullet. Then he scans the hole in the window where the bullet went through. As he went outside, he looked around. He could see there were many tall buildings that were tall enough to aid a sniper, but there was one building that was nearby that was very tall. It was the bell tower of the old St. Eustace Catholic Church, which now served as the infirmary for Arkham City. It was not officially planned to be part of the prison, but it was put in there by order of the city council. So Batman made his way over to the old church. He stuck to the rooftop where it was safer. There, as he got near the church, he could see from across the way that there were several men in clown masks there. They were the Joker's men, so definitely it was the origin of the shot. So Batman leaps off the building and glides across to the front entrance of the church, where he kicks and knocks out one of the Joker's goons. The rest attack him, but he made short work of them. Then he goes inside the church, and as soon as he goes inside the church, he sees several armed men and Harley Quinn flipping her way towards Batman, screaming, "Watch out, Mr. B-Man!" As she was coming towards Batman, ready to hit him, Batman quickly grabs her and says,
Eat floor.
Then Batman throws her to the ground, which prompts a response from the armed men ahead of them, with the middle one saying, pointing his gun at Batman, "Okay, Batman, let the lady go." Then Harley Quinn gets back up from the floor, and she dusts herself off, and she says to Batman, "Hey, you don't put a hand on me, and you almost ruined my new threads," she says. Harley Quinn was wearing a burgundy and black leather pants with matching midriff leather shirt, and she had her hair done up this time in pigtails. And she says to Batman, "Alright, B-Man, you listen up, and you listen up good. I'm leaving out of here. I have to tend to my Mr. J. He's not feeling himself lately. And if you try to stop me, these men will kill you and everybody else in here. You got that?" Then Batman had no choice but to comply as he watches Harley Quinn leave through the front door of the old church. Then the armed men say to Batman, "Okay, Batman, don't make any sudden movements." Batman knew he had to do something. He thought in his mind, 4 armed men. I'm going to have to use a little bit of smoke to get out. Batman quickly grabbed a smoke pellet from his utility belt, threw it on the ground, and it erupted, clouding him in smoke. Then he grapples upwards and hangs off a giant incense basin that was still there. The men had opened fire, and when the smoke cleared, he was gone. Panicking, the men quickly split and took several of the hostages at gunpoint. Batman, of course, made short work by taking them out one by one stealthily. After it was over, everybody was relieved. The makeshift medical center was full with several doctors and several nurses, and of course the MPT, which stood for Medical Protection Team. They were not part of Tiger, and they were not supported by Tiger or the prison. They were there solely to protect the medical personnel. And the leader of the MPTs was none other than Batman's old friend, Aaron Cash, the former head of security of Arkham Asylum. Now, this was the only job he can get, since he was blamed by Sharp for the Arkham riots. Batman walks up to him, and he says to Batman, "Oh, thank God you came, Batman. I didn't think we were going to make it." Then Batman asks him,
Is Joker here?
Cash answers back, "No, Harley Quinn came here with a couple of her men. They kidnapped one of our doctors, and then a couple of her guys went up to the old bell tower with several boxes, and then afterwards they came down here. They were expecting you to come," said Cash. Batman then asked Aaron Cash about the doctor that they kidnapped and the Joker's whereabouts, and Aaron Cash answered back, "Well, the clown is really sick. There's rumors that he's dying. That Titan drug that turned him monstrous is now slowly killing him," explains Cash. And then Cash goes on to explain. Then he's been trying for weeks now to get his hands on the doctors or nurses. He's even gotten his hands on any inmate that has any medical knowledge. He's also tried to make raids here to get his hands on any drugs. "It must be really serious," says Aaron. Then Batman tells Aaron Cash to lock the door and just stay put, and that he was going to go up to the bell tower to investigate what they put up there. Then Batman enters the stairwell that leads up to the bell tower. In his mind, he felt relieved that there was a safe place for him to go if he needed to in this godforsaken prison. Batman slowly made his way up the stairwell until he got to the bell tower. He goes into the bell tower and he sees the rifle, but there was no Joker. But the rifle had a lot of cabling connected to the butt, and those cables were connected to a laptop. And around the bell tower were several mannequins dressed like the Joker, but their heads were missing. The heads were replaced with TV sets, all of them with a snow pattern on the screen. And then Batman also noticed trouble. Around the bell tower was several boxes of explosives. And then an image of the Joker comes on the televisions that were on top of the mannequins. And the Joker says to Batman,
Well, Betsy. It's good to see you in Arkham City. Let's see, the last time I saw you, there was a riot, an asylum. Oh yeah, and you left me to die. At least that's how I remember it.
and the Joker goes on to say,
Anyways, Betsy, since you're new to Arkham City, I decided to leave you a housewarming gift.
Suddenly, the face of the Joker disappears from the television screens, and it was replaced with a countdown clock, which the countdown was starting from 10. Batman quickly leaps out the stained glass window of the bell tower and glides to safety. After he leapt out, suddenly there was a big explosion behind him. Batman lands again by the front steps of the church. He looks at the bell tower. A good chunk of it was destroyed by the explosion. Of course, the explosion caused everyone in the church to run outside to see what was going on. Aaron Cash stands next to Batman and says, "Holy crap!" And then he asks him, "Are you okay, man?" Batman responds,
I'm okay. It was just a pathetic attempt by the Joker to try to get rid of me.
Then Batman asks Aaron,
Where is the Joker hiding out in Arkham City?
Aaron Cash answers Batman's question, saying he's hiding out at the old Sionis steel mill towards the very north end of the island. And he goes on to say the only way to get there is through the Old Finger Causeway, because that entire part of the island is completely flooded out. Batman then just looks at Aaron Cash and the rest of the MPTs and the medical team there, and then he grabs his grapple gun and grapples away. His next stop, the old Sionis steel mill, to meet with the Joker. Like and subscribe. The end.